So this is my first race in 2026 after about 4 weeks of rest after I had kind of a nasty fall on the opening gravel straightaway in the last race in December. I had some scrapes, and the really lingering issue was a bruise to my rib and then my lower back, sort of pelvis, hip area. But I felt good today. But another gravel opening straightaway, so I decided to get the rightmost starting position where there was some grass that I thought might be a little safer. Although the other guys were joking at the beginning of the race that it was a little narrow. But it definitely looked more comfortable to me. And actually right about here, they've been able to hear it, but I think there was a crash where someone slipped out. Saw their bike go flying. I don't think it caused a big pileup or anything. Maybe just one or two people got slowed down. And I heard afterwards that I think he may have had to have pulled out after trying to get back in it for a few minutes. I didn't get a chance to do the warm-up today, the pre-ride. It was too early for me to get there. This race was later in the morning, so I just drove up and spent a few minutes trying to just get a general overview of the course, but that's really it. So I think in this first lap, I was taking things relatively easy. Obviously I wanted to avoid a crash in that opening straightaway, but even here, not really knowing what curves were coming up next, I just didn't want to be too aggressive and just sort of observe what's happening ahead of me and not get caught in too much of a cluster. So I missed a little bit of a bunny hop right there, and my front wheel with low tire pressure bumped into the curb and jostled my camera up a little bit, and was worried that I dented the rim or blew the tire out or something, but turned out to be okay. This section was a little tricky, even with later in the race with nobody around, or fewer people around, but with that cluster there, it made for really slow going. So I think the leaders probably managed to slip out a bit farther ahead by this point, while a few of us here were slowed down. So that guy there was telling me that I was in 21st place. And I think that guy was telling me I was in 23rd. So I don't know who was right, but I guess I was somewhere around there. So without doing any practice laps beforehand, I wasn't sure how much speed I could carry through these corners, so I was definitely taking things a bit cautiously, trying to keep my speed down a little bit to avoid slipping out on these turns. I was also trying to take the turns as wide as possible, so I'd start sort of at one side of the course like this, and then try to go through the apex of the turn and then come out wide again here, to really sort of have as a wide a turning radius as possible. I went with the file tread tires today. I guess my camera is angled up a little too high to be able to see them, but they don't really have much of any grip in the middle of the tire, but they do have an edge to them. sort of a knobby edge. So with a relatively low tire pressure, they get okay traction on that sort of curve. Bit of a straightaway here. With it spread out so much, I thought it would probably be a good idea to try to make up a few positions and maybe try to bridge up to some of those people that had slipped out ahead. You can see them up a ways there. Coming around this grass turn and back to the left. Well, maybe a couple little small turns, and that leads onto the beach, where there's a fairly long beachy sand section. Trying to find a groove to ride through. A lot of people jumping off right away. Tried to just ride the momentum as far as I could, but then just not even bother trying to pedal after that. Just try to hop off the bike as efficiently as possible and then throw it up with my shoulder and settle into a steady jog. I don't know if it's more efficient to push the bike like the guy in front of me is doing or to carry it on my shoulder. I feel like carrying it is probably the better option. You don't have to worry about the the resistance of the sand on the tires. It's probably not a big deal, but don't have to worry about controlling the bike and falling into any grooves that are already on the ground and sort of pulling me in an unexpected direction. But who knows? So it's a pretty long stretch. It looks like I'm averaging, I don't know, 8, 9, 10 kilometers per hour or so. And I've noticed on other sandy courses too that even where it's possible to ride through the sand, it might be faster, maybe 14 kilometers per hour, 15 kilometers per hour, but it's such a harder effort, and it just takes so much out of your legs that if it's a short sand stretch, that might be worth it, but if it's long, like in this course, it's probably better in the long run, more efficient to just jump off the bike and do the light jog at 10 kilometers per hour or so, rather than just completely exhausting the legs and sort of exhausting the energy reserve that you might otherwise have available for later in the race. A lot of cases like that where it's tempting to try to ride as far as possible through the turn, but that makes it a little more unpredictable, and you never know when your tire is going to sort of catch and sort of throw you off a little bit. So I think sometimes it's actually more efficient to just pick a point, even maybe a little bit before where you think you can get to, just to ensure a smooth dismount and not lose any time by ending up with the bike in an awkward position that you have to try to unclip from and get the bike out from under you and get moving again. Number 15 took the high road there, the high path. I think maybe he was looking ahead to where this next turn is, where we had to sort of come up and down. But I think the grass was matted down more on the bottom, and I thought it was probably the better approach. This was a little sketchy there. Well, it looks like I almost slipped out. There's a fairly fast straightaway with a turn into gravel. I thought the grass here on the right might be a little faster, and then I could have a little wider turn coming into here. Again, avoid the risk, or lower the risk of slipping on that gravel. And so this last 90-degree turn to the left brings us back. The start was back to the right, so directly behind us now. So this is the final straightaway to the finish line. It's coming up right here. So that's one full lap. My lap timer here says 10:19, but I think the official data was 10:31. I guess that's probably because the timer didn't start until I crossed that finish line. So there was probably 12 seconds or so before, or from the start up until that, the finish line. So things are really pretty spread out at this point. A couple people in front of me together, and then a couple people ahead of him. Looked like there was a little bit of a gap behind me. That section through there, the more technical section, was probably one of the few chances for a little bit of a rest, at least for letting my heart rate come down. I don't think my heart rate ever got too high. Pretty consistently in the low to mid 160s, I guess. But there were a lot of straightaways, like this one coming up, even though it's in the gravel, where I felt I really needed to put in a bit of an effort to at least maintain my position, if not pass people and catch up to others in front of me. Not so confident passing in those gravel sections, but I knew we were coming up to this grass here, so I was a little more comfortable putting in some more speed around the outside of the turn. But then coming in here was where I really had to slow down a bit. Actually, looking back at the official data, it looks like I finished the first lap in 14th place. So I'm probably a couple spots better than that now. Another long straightaway here. Chance to put in a decent effort. Again, it didn't really feel like I was making up that much ground, although probably was going faster than the couple of guys in front of me. So it looks like the gap is shortening a little bit, and then by the time I get up to these turns, let's see, moving more slowly, but I am a lot closer. So I got pretty far there before I had to jump off. And it looks like I'm pretty close now to the next cluster of people. So if I was in the top 15, then there are 3 people right ahead of me, and maybe the guy in pink ahead of that could be around the top 10, with a few more people not so far ahead of him. So I was liking my chances at this point. I felt okay, tired. My heart rate was up a little bit here, but not crazy. So definitely felt like a top 10 finish was in reach, but still not much more than halfway through the race, so still a lot can happen. But happy with the progress so far. Up in the top right of the screen it says 7 degrees Celsius, and I think it said maybe 10 or so at the start of the race, or even higher. That's not right. It was quite a bit colder, probably more like 3 degrees or so, and pretty windy. So you can see the people off to the side wearing puffy parkas and hats and all. But that was fine for a race like this. I think that if this had been a September-October race, 20 degrees or more, then it would have been very uncomfortable, and the heart rate would not have been under 170. So 27 with the pink bike there was able to ride through that turn where I had to run through and then remount here. But my guess is that his legs were a bit tired pushing through that, so that I was able to conserve a little bit and then get ahead of him after getting on the bike before jumping off right again here. Never quite sure where to remount in that section. I think I usually waited until it was really solid grass, but even a few meters earlier where the sand was still mixed in probably would have been fine, but figured might as well just run the extra few steps and make sure of more solid ground before making the attempt. So I was still trying to put in an effort where I could on straightaways like that, but I think I probably felt those next couple of guys in front of me, felt them slipping away a bit. I think by this point my legs were feeling pretty tired. So just a couple turns left until the finish line again. So I think this guy with the red number 35 is an under 17 rider, so he doesn't affect our standings. Coming wide to take advantage of that grass strip on the right. So that's about 10 minutes and 4 seconds, so 15 seconds faster than the first lap. Probably mostly explained by the congestion that we had, the big group going through the technical sections. So probably the sort of the overall pace isn't that much different. Again, ignoring the parts where we were slowed down by the big group. And I think I was in 9th place coming across the finish line for the second lap. So, not sure if I've lost a couple of spots again, but somewhere around the top 10 here. Looks like the leaders of the race were under about 9 minutes and 50 seconds by the official data on the first lap, so I guess they probably weren't slowed down much by anyone if they were starting in the front, but they did have that extra 10 or 12 seconds or so in the open straightaway before the finish line. And then the second lap, it looks like around 9 minutes and 30 seconds to 9 minutes and 40 seconds or so. So, at least 20 seconds or so per lap faster than my pace. Actually, looking at the second lap data, the top 4 were all under 9 minutes and 43 seconds. Then there was a big gap to the next fastest, who was 10 minutes and 3 seconds. My official time was also 10 minutes and 3 seconds, so actually it looks like mine was the 5th fastest time for the second lap. So I was right behind number 11 at this point in the last lap, but I didn't come around him here. I think he was going a little faster this time than the last, and maybe I was going a little slower too. It looks like I did manage to slip by him at least before this turn. So I think just a couple more turns here before that long straightaway leading to the beach. Those two guys were able to accelerate a little more out of that turn than I was. Let's see if I can catch up. Doesn't look like it. Putting in a pretty good effort at 350 watts or so. Not really making up any ground. But close enough where I'm right on their heels now, so coming into the beach section I'll be effectively tied with them. So just depending on how, I guess how quickly people run through here. Oh, I forgot about that. Looks like the first guy, like I was mentioning before, probably got stuck in the sands before actually deciding to hop off. So he got caught in sort of an unexpected position that makes it harder to dismount and start running. That caught up the guy behind him too, so I was able to just carry my momentum past both of them and then have a relatively smooth dismount. So still managing 10 kilometers per hour on the jog. Heart rate's a little higher now. Less than 5 minutes left of the race. So I really wanted to relax a bit here, but I knew that I would fall farther behind if I didn't make this last effort, and even still, see the shadow encroaching there. Number 11 again. I think I see another shadow behind me too. These sections are a little dangerous. Yeah, it looks like the one guy got caught up a bit, so I made up a spot there. Not quite able to get around number 11 here. Good recovery by him. Yeah, there was able to manage. Still decent power to this stretch, but I felt it in my legs. Those two guys were right behind me. Just didn't quite have it in me for a bigger surge there. Would have liked to put in more effort and stay in front of them, but I was fading. Less than 2 minutes left. This one sandy turn. And then that sort of paved straightaway before turning back into those gravel straightaways. So just a minute left now. Not so far behind these guys, but with just a couple of gravel straightaways, I don't think I expected to be able to catch them at this point. Sort of resigned to just finishing where I was. I think I was probably top 10 at this point still. Well, I know I was, but I think during the race, I think I realized I was probably around top 10. One spot, one way or the other wouldn't be a huge distance, but I saw him starting to slow down there, so I put in a little extra effort there, stupidly. The bike just slipped out from under me. So I think I didn't have very good judgment at the end there, seeing sort of cross-eyed at the end of the race. But I did know that there was no one behind me, at least close behind, so it wasn't a huge risk. And it was just sliding over gravel, so nothing too serious. Didn't get any bruised ribs or anything like the last two races. Just some scrapes that will heal soon enough. And it looks like the third lap was about the same time as the second lap. So nice to see that didn't drop off too much at the end. And then top 10 finish overall, which happy enough about. But yeah, it's a good, fun, difficult race. Probably pretty good practice for the next one coming up in a couple weeks in Odaiba. I think that's also a sort of a flat beach course. So it'll be pretty similar to today, but maybe more people entering since it's right in Tokyo. But we'll see.